just feels like this is going to be harder for people to agree commercially. I mean, not necessarily on the technicality of what needs to be done, but the commercial element around it feels harder.
What do you mean you don't agree with me? Do you know who you're dealing with?
Let's just say it's like trying to out pizza the Hut, right? But you have to start somewhere, and maybe with a sovereign slice.
Well, what about the money?
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
If you download it from totally not piratedbooks.com, that's not allowed, right? So just buy a book, one book, and train your model.
Downloading films is stealing. If you do it, you will face the consequences.
If I dressed in a wolf outfit and was prowling around the streets, might not get arrested.
A few moments later.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Cloud Unplugged. We have a few stories. I know you're going to cover these, Salman, some of these. We've got the EU sovereign cloud contract for 180 million to talk through. We've got the big copyright settlement against Anthropic called the Bartz versus Anthropic. I know we have some random stories, two random stories. I think you've got one, I've got one. We'll save those for the end as a little bit of a teaser and a bit random. So, yeah, shall we crack on, or anything you want to add?
Yeah, I'm just going to say a bunch of companies keep getting hacked. So if we get to it and if we have time, this is just business as usual, just companies getting hacked. So maybe we can talk about those as well. But yeah, let's just jump into the first one.
Exactly. Just another day, another hack. That's it. That's how it rolls nowadays in 2026. So I guess the Sovereign Cloud award, the 180 million, not gone to a US-based company. Do you want to talk that through and then maybe why you think that's happened?
Yeah, so the EU has awarded 180 million euros to a bunch of European companies like Thales, S3NS, Scaleway, and a few other companies for a 6-year contract to build European sovereign cloud. And Microsoft, AWS, and Azure and Google currently hold 70% of the cloud market in EU as well. So they didn't get any piece of that. And that's perhaps to the point that, the US Cloud Act that came out that allows the American authorities to access data but that's held by US companies no matter where it is. So, this is EU has said, why don't we start building our own cloud? So, legal compliance, data protection, and all of that can be transparent rather than relying on an American company. So that's come out in the last couple of weeks, which is big news. I don't know what your take on that is.
I think because there was talk around them setting up a company, like a European-based company, and then that didn't really make any difference because the holding company was still going to could be like Alphabet or Amazon. So actually, it still came under the same jurisdiction and really didn't really make much difference, I believe. So then, I guess this was then they've decided not to go US at all. I do remember. I don't know if you heard of like the FedRAMP stuff where there was like a big investigation into how Microsoft do their cloud. So it's like federal risk and something management program. I can't really remember, but basically the US government gatekeeper for cloud security, and they did loads of investigation and they were like trying to figure out how Microsoft did things. And I think they spent something like 5 years or some insane amount of time trying to work things out on like how secure their cloud was, but actually in the end they just gave up because they couldn't really get to the bottom of it, and then just announced that it's kind of fine anyway, and you can kind of use it. And then I think they figured out that they had like, I think something like the people in China maybe were having access to things or something or other. There was loads of like things that kind of came out of the woodwork following it on. But yeah, so maybe that's a part of it too. Like essentially you can't really trust, even if you did do a secure cloud, I guess there's a question on how secure really is. for government data and whether truly they're being transparent and honest anyway. But yeah.
I think the interesting thing also, I agree with about transparency, but the interesting thing here, which I found, is Mistral AI. I don't know if you come across them. It's a French AI company.
Yeah.
So they are in the consortium that won this 160 million euros to do this. So I think Europe is signaling that we're trying to build our own sovereign AI stack as well. Because now, yes, cloud is an important thing, but having your own GPUs so you can train your own models and be in charge of your own destiny is probably also very important. Because we spoke about it previously how AWS and how Google and Microsoft are trying to break the Nvidia monopoly by having their own chips. So I guess it's good for consumers as well. That these companies are hopefully will be building the cloud that lives in European sovereign land. I know a lot of people have to say this, and I think going to these conferences and speaking to people within Europe, the feeling is that we should have our own, well, as Europe, should have our own cloud in which we can host our and be transparent about how things are being hosted. So I think it's, but I mean, the thing is, right? The EU is putting up 180 million euros to build our own sovereign cloud and reduce reliance on US providers. Now, people might say, is 180 million euros enough to rival the cloud giants? And well, let's just say it's like trying to out pizza the hut, right? But you have to start somewhere, and maybe with a sovereign slice. So that's basically what's happening. So Europe is taking a stance and starting up, and of course, there's a lot of other smaller companies and large size companies as well that are out there. But I don't know if we ever see like a hyperscaler type of provider come out of Europe. I don't know what you think. I think it's going to be a bit tricky to see because they hold a lot of real estate where all this stuff is hosted. I don't know if we'll see a European company come out.
I don't really understand how it's going to work though, because like to build a cloud, what does that mean? Do you know even know what they mean by build a cloud? As in, like, are all these independent companies going to somehow come together and unify in like a common way of like managing and upgrading and deploying things to the cloud? Or this, like, they've just basically diversified the pot, and you're going to have 5 different types of solutions to maybe work with that are all different. Like, what's the end game exactly?
This is the Airbus equivalent of cloud, John. You know how Airbus, we have all the European companies come together and make a plane that can rival Boeing from Europe. That's the same. So they will all work together. Of course, they will have some competing technologies, but that's the same as what was done with aerospace monopoly that Boeing used to hold. So it's an interesting time, and it is an exciting time that there's more people entering the market. So I'm looking forward to what comes out of it. We'll keep an eye on it, of course, John. We can let people know how it progresses, perhaps in the next few episodes, maybe in the 15th or so episode, we'll let you know where we are with this.
What? But why don't they? I mean, yeah, we should probably move on a little bit, but I just don't know why don't they just invest in? I mean, it's a bit controversial for me to say, but why not just invest in one company to create like an Amazon or a GCP equivalent, but high investment, and then poach loads of the people from Amazon, Google, and Azure who obviously have like driven data centers and know it, and make like the package really compelling, sponsor them to come over here, like, because in the end it's talent based, not necessarily company based. So it's like, you probably want to get the talent in that's got the understanding of cloud and the cloud services and certain things, not just necessarily the companies that hold the talent, if you see what I mean.
But then some of these companies have expertise in some of these areas already. Why wouldn't you bring them together and like use them so you can create one solution, I guess? But giving it to one provider, one company, probably be a bigger gamble than dividing it between 6 or 7. And I understand what you're saying.
I think
it'll be
more
big,
of a gamble.
it's a big gamble.
I think the reverse, only because like they're all going to be trying to have a slice of the pie, They're probably
Yeah.
looking at like, 180 mil isn't that much. I mean, like one department inside of government spends more than that in one of the cloud providers a year anyway. So you've basically put like a single department in the UK spends more than that in a year with Amazon or whatever, right? So you're like, well, you've basically divided up of quite a small amount of financial value, and they're all going to be picking at that pie and trying to work out how to proportionate it, all trying to work out like what the contractual model is around it, and how do we all work together, what's the commercial legalities around it all, who owns what, who's prime in this contract, is like a prime that's like managing it all, or are we all like equal, and how do decisions get made and all this other. So in the end, it's like, how does it legally and commercially work? For me, is way more complicated than saying, maybe as Europe, we all take a little bit of the EU's funding, put it into some big bucket, so we all contribute. We set up like an independent company that we've all got a stake in proportionally, and then we just steal loads of talent. I mean, literally, my idea is probably crap, but as well, and crazy. But it just feels like this is going to be harder for people to agree commercially. I mean, not necessarily on the technicality of what needs to be done, but the commercial element around it feels harder to agree upon than maybe.
Yeah, but this is the EU way of doing things, right? Like we have these companies that are spread out. Perhaps maybe, John, you want your company to win this contract and do the whole thing. But I think this is just
we are in this. So yeah, that's why I'm saying this on this podcast today, because I'm a little bit bitter about it, actually. How it's gone down. I'm joking.
but this is
airing a prejudice.
Okay, so you kept it all in until we go onto the podcast and just started.
I'm messing up.
Yeah, it's just a statement of intent, John. As you correctly pointed out, 180 million euros is not a lot of money, but it's a statement of intent. So I think it's a good start. It's a good start.
It is. So another story, which is quite a big. I think this is quite a big one, and I think this is going to be happening a lot, I imagine, and there's probably going to be other lawsuits, but the Bartz versus Anthropic. So 1.5 billion copyright settlement has been kind of finalized.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 300 million has to be paid, and another 450 million gets paid in September 2027. This is to do with like LibGen and Polibi, which is like these pirated book repositories that were online. Apparently, the model was trained on these, basically, other authors' books through like a pirated route, I guess, for the model to basically get the data. And then it's basically a new class of action was then put in place against the Meta as well, and Mark Zuckerberg personally, I believed. I think he was named personally because he gave authorization for LibGen scraping, basically, I believe. And so there's like a personal one against Meta. But anyway, essentially what they're saying is you've stolen from us, really, through nefarious means, and trained your model on it, and now you're competing with us from our work, really. What do you think about that?
So, of course, we should say before we start, we don't have any legal expertise, right? Because this is a legal matter. But so there's two legal terms here.
Well, but the lawyers have got an opinion on it because that's what's happened.
Yeah. So there's two terms here which are being used: the fair use and transformative use. So, fair use is if you legally purchase a book and you use that book for training purposes, sharing in a course, writing a review about it, that's allowed. The other one is a transformative use, which is you take your book and you you create something else out of it, which does not stop the sales of the original book, right? So it's like
inspiration. Taking inspiration from it, like, yeah, exactly.
Exactly. It's like sampling a track. I took a track, you can sample a track and you can create a new one. So what the judges said is the fair use, the books that you bought and you train the model on, that's kind of fair use. Some of the people are not happy with it. The publisher's not happy with it, because what you're not doing with that is stopping the sales of the original book. You took the information, you trained yourself. Basically, you turned it into the AI learning process was considered as transformative use.
Mhm.
So it analyzed the pattern, it created something new. You can't go to ChatGPT or Claude and say, can I read the War and Peace? It is not going to give you the text to read the War and Peace. It'll give you a summary, which is allowed, right? So so that's, which is fine. Okay, I mean, I don't know if some of the publishers are not happy with that, but the thing about this pirated books, that's the thing that's caused the issue for them to say, right, now you're allowing pirated books to be downloaded and trained on. That's not allowed.
Mm.
But it still doesn't answer the question: is training your model using books, is that fair use or not? The court says it is. People don't really agree that this is fair news. This is something new. It's kind of like two things are being mixed up. It's, you might remember Napster, right? From, I know it's before your time, John, but Napster back in the day, where you can torrent songs illegally and listen, and then Spotify came in, and then they said, okay, you know what? You can stream the music, but you have to pay like 10 pounds a month, and the singers will only get like 0.005 cent of every stream, that every million things that they stream. So it's, yes, things have been agreed upon that payouts need to be given up, but I don't know this opinion. I don't know if this is going to go away anytime soon. So
But
basically,
wasn't though the
yeah, go
main
on.
issue that they basically used pirated
That was the main
content?
issue.
Yeah, as in
Yeah.
like which is technically, like you've just said, with like Napster or any torrent, BitTorrent, I mean, and BitTorrent itself obviously is not the issue, but basically it allows people to download the software, obviously using other software. Sorry, download the assets using other software, obviously published by others on servers, BitTorrent servers, which then means most of those would be like movies or
Yeah.
books or whatever else that people decide to share to save people money. But they've done it as a company. Apparently, they then trained on pirated information which they hadn't bought, and so that is obviously surely is illegal, because
Yeah.
yeah,
That is illegal, but the case when it started wasn't just about the pirated companies, right? It's about the fair use as well. But that question is still open, because according to that case, transforming the information to something new, that's allowed. So the publishers somehow still need to get their information back, right? They still need to get their investment back. So yes, the pirated ones, that's absolutely bad. But I don't know if we got to this is the final time, the last time we're gonna hear about this. So basically, what we've seen is the AI companies may be allowed to train on copyrighted books under fair use, but only when you obtain the book legally, right?
but
However, if you if you
did New
buy,
York Times have the same thing? Didn't New York Times win a court case? I'm sure they had one as well.
they probably did. But buying, so if you get the book legally, you are allowed to train your models. But buying the book and teaching your AI from it might be okay, and downloading it. But if you download it from totally not piratedbooks.com, that's not allowed, right? So just buy a book, one book, and train your model. That's okay.
Yeah, that does seem a bit. It does seem a bit unfair, because training a model, like me training a model
Yeah.
on a book, not so much risk, right? Just as a person, I mean, say I wanted to train a model, I want to do model building. It's only me that uses that model, which is the same as me referring to the book manually myself anyway. There's not very much risk.
Yeah.
Me, though, publishing the book, say I then took that book and then published that book on the internet for others to then read at high scale, because I've like, say this podcast is like going through the roof and we've got bazillions of followers, right? Me then publishing the book or narrating the book on this podcast with our bazillion viewers, surely can I do that? Can I read each chapter out loud to bazillions of people on a podcast, and that's not copyright?
That's not fair use, right? So this is you falling into fair use. So, but if
But the
let's
model
just
that's trained on the book, which is a service for like lots
yeah
of people to then use, that's very
yeah
different to a single model that an individual is using.
yeah because that now according to the court they decided that's transformative way, right? So that's
Right.
you've transformed the information, so that's fine. The only thing they got caught upon is downloading the pirated books. So basically, buying the book legally and training your AI on it is fine. But if you download it from piratebay.com, that's not fine. And train your model. So you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
still
no,
at the
that
moment
isn't
you can
fine.
train the model. Yeah, that's what they came up with. But
And
I
also,
don't think this is the last we're gonna hear of this. It will still keep
yeah,
coming.
there'll be
I don't think this is
loads
the
of
last.
this. And we also got a little confession from you for using Napster back in the day to download software. You seem very
No,
informed.
I've seen
Informed on that.
the social, what is that movie? But the Facebook movie.
Oh, the
That's
social
most
dilemma, is it, or something?
the social network. The social
The
network.
social
I've seen
network.
that book.
That's it.
That's the one. It is actually a dilemma having 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 some of these social media is a dilemma. But anyway, yeah, that's what that is.
Yeah. So I guess the random story, getting into a little bit of a random story. What is your random story of the week?
My random story, which is not too random anymore, is that Stanford and Imperial College carried out an internet archive study, and they found that by the middle of last year, about 35% of the newly published websites were AI generated or AI assisted, and almost 20% were fully AI generated. So basically, researchers linked it to what they call a dead internet theory, that the idea that bots and AI are dominating the online content. So
Wow.
imagine this: you go into a library and you start looking at the books. Every third book is written by somebody who doesn't sleep, doesn't eat, doesn't pay taxes, doesn't get writer blocks. How original it is, I don't know, but this is what's happening right now. Now, do you care if the information that you get is useful or transform your life? I'm not sure. Does this provide value? That's fine, but a lot of the information online is now going to be AI generated. I've seen a lot of posts and comments on the posts that are generated by AI, and people actually accepting that they put a AI generated comment, like their bots replying to LinkedIn posts. So this is a reality. It's not so random, but this is a reality.
That's mental. It didn't. There's loads of there's some people that were MPs here that I think also wrote a book, or maybe it might have been the US. I can't really remember. But they basically wrote a book with AI. It was it was really obvious. Everyone was then commenting on it, saying this is like the most AI written book ever published, because it's super, super obvious that it is written by AI. So yeah, I guess, but it's just going to be not very, the worth or value of something that can produce something really easily is it's not high value, is it really? I don't know how popular those things are going to be. I wouldn't want to read an AI generated book.
But if you don't know it's an AI generated book and you read it and you liked it, what would you do? Hate yourself for it, right?
Yeah, you probably never see me again. You'd be like, what? Where did Jon go? I'm just be in the house all the time, paranoid that people can tell when they see me that guy likes AI books. Like somehow it would translate maybe in my eyes when people look at me, they'll be able to see. So I'd probably never be able to leave the house. I think I'd be locked up inside.
Would you accept textbooks, like for example a maths textbook? There was a thing going around where somebody published a maths textbook for a school, and there was an equation that they're helping you solve, and there's a table, and underneath it says, "Oh, if you want me to explain a different way, let me know." Right? So they just copied and pasted whatever the model said. So would you accept a textbook, perhaps for like school, maybe?
Yeah, I think anything I think creativity is something. I mean, obviously, figuring things out and maths, that's not something necessarily we specifically have created. It's the calculation of the things around us. It's the things that already have existed. It's nature, or the parameters are different. but something that somebody else has created or manifested, you know, through creativity is a very personal thing that is affiliated with that individual, their perception of the world, that as another human being should be very relatable. And so the characters or the person, wherever that stemmed from, including music or art or whatever else, I do feel there is a protection, because it's got a sense of being mocked when AI does it. There's a mockery to it that's like, it doesn't really understand any of those things that are quite humanistic. So therefore the value of it's like a little bit insulting when something pretends to understand those things and then just can knock it up, so rather than factual things. But yeah, but I've got a really quick one, because I don't know if you saw this, so I'll get it out of the way. But there's basically a wolf in Korea that escaped from a zoo and was on the rampage, and some guy basically created an AI generated image of this wolf in his area and then posted it, I think, on social media, and then everybody freaked out and all the schools closed in the area, and I think hospitals were obviously panicking because of the wolf and all these other things. So I think there was like a lot of police and people reacting to it, and they basically put him in jail. He's gone to jail in South Korea for basically causing a disruption by using AI to pretend that the wolf was in an area that it wasn't really in. So so another, the rule of law is coming around AI, is coming for people nowadays. It's hit or miss. You never know what's going to happen.
They're probably looking for the wolf on the Wall Street. All they found was a wolf made by AI on the streets, right? So that's what they were looking for.
I mean, I suppose if I dressed in a wolf outfit and was prowling around the streets, might not get arrested. How convincing you are, like pretending to be a wolf.
John, no one's ever seen a 6'3" wolf, right? So if you dressed up as a wolf,
not they haven't, but they soon will.
They soon will,
my friend. Yeah, they soon
John in a 6 foot John in a wolf costume. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I'll have to. But yeah, AI generated wolves are a no-go in South Korea, so don't even think about it.
Fair enough.
But anyway, so I know it's a bit of a quicker one for us this week, but back in action since my holiday. But yeah, we'll be tuning in next week as well, and we shall speak to everybody soon.
Thanks for listening.
Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Cheers, bye.